Yeah. It's okay
Cool.
right now.
Here we go. Uh,
Oh, we are live. Okay.
yeah, I put it
I
live
didn't
because
notice that.
it's the only way I know how to get the link to post on the community.
Okay.
I'm still kind of figuring this out. So but I'm just editing like the post now.
Okay. So while you're editing, probably I can talk about what we'll talk about today.
Yep.
So yeah. So today probably we'll talk about. So you share one of your favorite custom functions in FlutterFlow, and talk about a little bit why it's your favorite and why you like it so much and why do you use it a lot.
Hmm.
And probably I'll do the same with a custom function that I use all the time. And we can do this like every time we begin the live stream.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
yeah, so we can do this every time because this is as you said and you suggest, this is useful. And then probably if there is something from the other stream, the last stream we did, probably we can just show something. So if you're okay with it, you can
Hmm.
just show the last stream, the widget that we did, the
Yeah.
working widget, because the last time we didn't have the time to actually show the working widget. And probably it's a good idea to just show it. So if we have something, we can show it. And then if there is new functionality inside FlutterFlow, we can just go through this as
Yeah, I
well.
think that'd be good.
Yeah,
There's a lot of new stuff on that July 7th update. So
yeah, exactly. And and yeah, and if everything gets done and we are still not finished the 1 hour, we can probably talk about something else. But this is
we'll
the
find
plan
something to
for
talk about.
exactly. So this is the plan for today.
Cool. Just trying to look at
And is
just
the
going through.
chat is the chat live? Because I mean not live, but it says private chat, or is it that private
So
chat?
chat. Uh, so I think if you go into the actual like YouTube um, page, I think there's live chat there. No,
Probably.
let me
Let
look.
me check that.
Yeah,
Uh,
there is. So hello everyone.
Probably it's a little bit delayed.
Yeah. Uh,
Okay.
yeah. See.
Yeah.
So the comments that are posted on YouTube show up here. So
Yeah. Nice. Nice.
cool. One
Okay.
day I'll figure out how to actually do the live stream properly. I
No,
still don't
but
quite get.
I
I
think
don't
the
quite
first
get how you get the. I don't quite get how you do the. How you get the link in advance.
no,
Sometimes it shows up,
but the
sometimes not.
first time that we did it, I think we just talk about it and then you did it live, right?
No,
Isn't
like last week, I managed to get the link in advance somehow.
yeah.
Uh, I shouldn't vape on these in case my mother's watching. Uh, hopefully she won't.
Yeah.
I'm dying from this heat, like genuinely.
Yeah.
What's your custom function that you're gonna show?
So I'm first. Um, yeah, let me. How do I share the screen?
It should be on here, like the
Yeah,
middle button.
it's yes, exactly. Yeah, a dumb question. So I share my window or share my. I cannot share my entire screen, unfortunately, because I'm on Linux. But I
Oh
can
yeah.
share. Yeah, but I can. I think I can share a tab only.
Which one did you say you use? Ubuntu, yeah?
Ubuntu, exactly. So now it should be visible, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I have like those functions that I use probably on all my projects, and they're like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Two
6.
values, one
So they're
return.
like, yeah, they're like 6 functions, and I use them all the time. And probably today we can talk about, because the first one, it's not very interesting. It's just getting the location of the user,
Yeah, that's one I
the
think
latitude,
as
longitude.
the FlutterFlow has that as like a in their guide, I think.
Probably. So yeah, and it's not very useful for the everyday user, probably, because if you don't want those functionality, you don't need it. So but yeah, I can use I can show the compare version, the compare values. Sorry,
That one's
and it's
cool.
actually yeah, it's very basic, a very basic custom function. And the deal is, I know that when you go inside FlutterFlow, you have the comparison, so you can use the comparison already, right?
Hmm.
You when you, for example, you want to hide something, then you
Yeah.
can just use the conditional, and you can use those, which should be the same thing, to be honest. But using my
The
experience with FlutterFlow, it's not actually the same thing, because I managed to do this. For example, if I compare two values, I managed to do this with this custom function, but I was not able to do it with the built-in FlutterFlow
Yeah, I
functionality.
think the advantage of doing it with the custom function is that you can have error catching.
Yeah,
So, which you can't, like, for instance, say you want, especially I come up across this a lot with it's like if document exists and stuff like that.
yeah,
And if you're using these kind of the basic ones in FlutterFlow, you can't set like a default value so well.
yeah.
So I think that's where the custom functions help a lot.
Yes, exactly. And those are very basic custom functions, but they help a lot, for me at least. And I think all the viewers, they will to help them as well, because you can change the type actually. So you can
Yeah.
compare. In this case, I'm comparing strings, but of course you can compare document also, and whatever you want. Just all the types that are available, you can compare them. And in my case, I'm just, yeah.
I was going to say actually another interesting thing I want to show is that thing I sent to you the other day,
Yeah,
where I was trying to do a JSON list.
yeah,
Uh, so generating a list, I can actually show that. That's kind of interesting, I think.
sure.
Where I was trying to generate basically custom tabs, filter tabs. So
Yeah,
I wanted to generate, 5 tabs, but I wanted to generate it with an image from the Firestore document and then also the string value. I think that was kind of cool.
yeah,
So we can kind of, I might show a few just little things that we find interesting.
yeah,
See if anybody
and
else does.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, this is a basic function. In my case, two strings, and the code is very simple. You can actually try and use the AI generated code, because it's super simple code. And yeah, just comparing the two values, if they're
Do you find that works
exactly.
well, the AI generated string?
Yeah, I found sometimes it's working, sometimes it's not. Because it's using the OpenAI.
Yeah.
Actually, the OpenAI have a learning curve,
Hmm.
so there are actually a lot of news about people using OpenAI for generating codes.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you are into using the AI generated code or with OpenAI, I think I would suggest you to just check those videos, because there are actually a lot of videos. People are just showing what are the best way to just put a
The text
sentence,
in.
or yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, so you can just get the most value of what you just wrote.
Oh,
So yeah, the best thing, and I really suggest everyone to use it, is to when you're done with everything, just make unit
hmm.
tests, so you can just check if everything is working the way it's intended to work. Because yeah, this is important, because if for example, if you write 0 and 1, of course you should get a false, and when you write
Yeah.
1 and 1, it should get true. But the problem here is that you cannot check, you cannot do testing with another value type, which probably for me it's a little bit of misfunctionality, and I hope that FlutterFlow will include this in the future, because
there are some ways you can do it. In terms of, one thing that I often do is I set, if I want to make a reusable custom function that, let's say, can compare two integers and also compare two strings, what I do is I include a third parameter that says like is string or is integer, and then I just have that set to Boolean so that I can use it for both, and then I just write it as one then custom function so that it's the same, you know, it's the same custom function for both, but it's just you're kind of triggering which one runs, which one doesn't run. I find that works sometimes.
Yeah, that's great. That's actually a great functionality as well. So
One of my
yeah,
little
you can do
hacks.
this. Yeah, you can do this, or probably you can use the casting. So you can, I think you can cast from one value type to another. Not all the time it will work, but sometimes it will work. And you can also, for example, you can have a third value here and just write like data type or something like that.
Yep.
And here you have like here you can write, for example, you can write string, or you can write exactly the same Boolean or double or integer
exactly.
or whatever.
And then insert that. It's the same.
Yeah.
The biggest thing I come into is, let's say, counting list of documents, how you have to specify in the custom function that it's a list of document type this. So document type user. And that means you can't just have one function that counts for all the different types of documents for all your different collections. You have to come up with a different function for each one. And I haven't quite figured out a way around that. All right, 3 o'clock. Shall we start?
Yeah, sure. Just
do you want to go first, or shall I?
Yeah, just show your just go first.
I can go first. So welcome to everybody who's joining us, if anybody is, and for those of you who are watching on record, hope you find this helpful. We're going to be talking today mostly about custom functions and just kind of some cool stuff that we do in our, or that we think is helpful, because it's kind of the things that we use again and again. And also it's the stuff that we see kind of coming up again and again as questions in the community, but that in actuality can often be solved with some pretty simple custom functions. As Dimitar always says, he's got about 5 that he uses. I am terrible about naming my custom functions, so I have hundreds, but in reality, they probably do about 6 things. And then the other thing we're going to do is going to go through some of the stuff. On July 7th, there was a pretty big FlutterFlow update. We're going to kind of go through some of that stuff, especially the routing. There is a tutorial on it, but we're going to try and build it from the tutorial to show it kind of live, just because I know that's something that comes up a lot, and it's a really cool functionality that's been added in FlutterFlow. So
yeah, actually, I did a video of that on my own.
Exactly. It's something like, so I think a lot of us has had like workarounds about how to do it. I know I do in my app, but it's really cool that it's kind of built in, and but we're going to try and go through their tutorials step by step and do it. So where we're going to start today is I'm going to start with I'm just going to go to a random page of my app. Let's say everything's been moved around. Where do I find the pages? Here we go.
They have a new, they have a new UI probably, right?
Yeah, it's a little bit. Every day is different. So we're just gonna start with this. This is a basic payment screen to display the payments that are that are registered, that are linked to a user's wallet. So this is a simple little tab view that I've built to display based on the type of payment. And then here you've got a list view that is querying the payments collection, filtering out based on the user, and then with the fancy new interface, ordering by the date decreasing. So the problem that will happen here is if the user doesn't have a wallet. So if the user does not have a wallet document already created, then this page will essentially fail. It will fail because it's going to be looking for a document that does not exist, and you'll get the gray screen of death. So the question is, how do we make sure that a user has a wallet document by the time they get to this page? And this
Just
could be for yeah.
open a just to talk about a little bit more about the green screen of that. What are the use cases of the green screen of that? So if you don't have a record, it will just show a green screen of that, right?
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
is there any other cases, or do you know any other cases, or?
You can get gray screen of death also where your filters in your FlutterFlow query are invalid. So there are some filters that Firestore does not allow, which will cause a gray screen of death. One example is if you do the filter rather than equal to, if you're saying in, you're saying in. What this is saying is it in this list? There is actually a Firestore limit of 10 things that can be an in. So if you're saying if it's in this list of 20 things, that will cause a gray screen. There are some other ones, like for instance, you can't use an equal to and greater than or equal to on different fields. So for instance, you can't say equal to this user ID and greater than this date. I'm pretty sure that's true. I'm not 100%, but there are definitely some combos of these filters. So if you're getting gray screen of death, one of the things to try is just start taking out your filters on your query to make sure that the most basic filter works.
Yeah, great. Thanks for that.
So basically what I want to do is I want to make sure that the first time that a user comes to this page, we want to check and see if they have a wallet document. And if they don't, what we want to do is create them that document. So we have a few tools we can use here. One of them is these actions that run on page load. So that's before anything gets painted, which means you can avoid a gray screen of death as long as this action creates the wallet document on the page load, essentially. The problem is that how do you check whether the user has that wallet document or not? And that's what's a little bit hard, because if you're running a query to get the document, that's going to actually happen. These backend queries that you can attach to the scaffold for the page, that's actually going to happen after the page loads. So that's not going to help you. So what you need actually is to everything to be done in this one custom action, essentially. We need it to check whether it exists, and if it doesn't exist, we need it to create it. So what I've done is I've created here a little custom action, and I just call it check exists. So if we go into this custom function, what this custom function is doing is essentially forcing a query, just like you would do on the normal the page scaffold. So we're forcing it to run a query before the page loads, because remember, this is going to be run as an action in our action workflow. So
just returning a Boolean, right? If you have it, just returning true or false.
Exactly. So it's returning a true or false. So the parameters we have set up in this custom action, there's no kind of dependencies you need to pull in. For this one, I've done UID. This is just purely because I know I always want to be looking for documents that are owned by the user. The second argument is a string value that is going to be the collection we want to check. So in this case, it's going to be wallet. But this allows me, setting this as a string value, allows me to use the same function for any different time I want to check something before a page loads.
Yeah, that's great.
The third one I have here is a check field. This is so that I can also check, for instance, that it just gives me a little bit more. So it's not just that a document with the UID, but I also want to maybe check that a date value is equal to a certain date, or that a type. So for instance, if a user has two wallets, a primary and a secondary. So now we can check, we can specify the collection we're going to check, and we can also specify the field, which would be type. So that's on the left side, if you like. And then argument 4 is the value that we want to check. So the way I've set this up is to allow me to use these parameters and to reuse this custom action multiple times, not just for one use case. So the structure here, the key part here is, and we covered this in our last one, it's query snapshot. This part, snapshot check, can be absolutely anything. This is just a variable name that you're giving it. So you're saying run a query and then await the result of it. And then this special Firebase Firestore.instance. Then we use this dot structure that you always see with Firebase. So dot collection, which collection are we querying? And again, we're using here this string value that we're putting in as a parameter. So this would be wallets, for instance. And then these are like your filters you would have whenever you do a query in FlutterFlow. So where UID is equal to, and then I've got, again, a parameter UID to allow me to set it to the authenticated user. Then I've got another where, this is just like a second filter, check field, again, so we can specify the field type to check, is equal to, this is a fixture, it's just exactly like the FlutterFlow filters work. And then the check value is linked to this parameter. And then I've got this command get, that's gonna get that document. Now, what happens if the document does not exist is it's gonna come back with an empty result. And so I have here this if else statement. So if snapshot check, which refers to here, this is just a variable name, it can be named anything. Docs, this is the keyword for Firestore, is not empty. So essentially, has it returned a result? So if it is not empty, you will return true. If it is empty, meaning it doesn't find anything that matches our filter, the document does not exist for this user, it's going to return false. So that's basically how we set this up. Now, how do we use that in practice? If we go back to our builder mode, what we're going to do is we're going to set up the actions to run on page. You can ignore these local states. These are from my custom tab bar. But basically, our first action is going to be this custom action. So we'll pretend that it's our first one here. We're going to look for the custom action here. And the custom action was called check exist.
Yeah, people like you having a lot of custom actions, probably they need to organize stuff in the future, like a search bar or something like that.
That would be nice. That would be nice, actually. So we're going to do check exists. And remember, I'm just going to scroll this up a little bit just to avoid confusion, because none of that other stuff matters. So these are the parameters that we mentioned. So the UID, again, what we're doing here is we're essentially setting what is our initial query. So we're going to set the UID to be our authenticated user. We want to find the wallet that is owned by that user. You could also use user record reference here. I just use UID just because, I don't know, it's what I do. There are some advantages, I guess. I think back in the early days, I used to use it a lot more to avoid like gray screens of death, because document from reference. Anyway, check collection. This one is going to be a specific value. We know we have a collection called wallets. And so that's the one we want to check.
Do you know what will happen if you mistype a letter or something like that?
It will come back with a false. It will come back with a false, because it will still try to check that collection, but it just won't find that it exists.
Okay.
The field we want, this is a field. So about the wallet, we know the wallet has a field called UID. And in my example, I won't bother showing, but it has a type. So there are two types of wallets, primary and secondary. So again, we're going to set it from a secondary value, and we're going to call it type. So that's the field name, not the field value that we want to check. So we want to check the type, and then here we're going to set the value. We want to be pulling in the primary. So I know that, again, this is just another specific value. And we're going to type here. This is we want to make sure it's a primary wallet. Primary.
Can you just scroll it a little bit, because our webcams are not showing what you're typing right now? If you can, I'm not sure. Probably you can. Right?
It's my computer is going very, very, very slowly right now. But hopefully, can you see that?
Yeah.
And then what I want to do is I want to give this just a variable name so I can use it. So I'm going to say check result. This can be anything. So now I've done this. This is the query that previously we couldn't do without a custom action. And remember, this is running in the action chain before any of the page loads. So now what I can do is I can set a conditional action here. And I can link the condition of this action to be based on the output of that custom action, that query result. So if we go here, and we go to action outputs and we see our check result.
Yeah.
And we set that. And so now if it's true, that means that it found that document. So if it's true, it will go down this pathway. And there's essentially nothing more we need to do. The document exists, which means the page will load. However, if the document does not exist, what we're going to want to do here is put a create document. So we're going to want to actually create that wallet document for this user so that they have it. And then that means, again, the rest of the page will load. So unfortunately, I will go through this even though it's painfully slow, just for the sake of completeness. So a wallet is what we want to create because that's what we were looking for. Any questions about this?
Yeah, I have a question actually. I was wondering because you mentioned the user ID. So in your case, you're actually attaching this record to the user, right?
Yeah. So this is a user's wallet.
But if someone don't want to attach it to the user, do you think they could just skip the user ID?
Of course. That was in my custom action, I hard coded UID. But there's no difference for the UID versus we check the type is equal to primary. It was exactly the same. It's just that I link almost every single document to a user. They're very, in my particular use case, there are very few documents in my app that are not owned by a specific user. So just to save time, I hard coded this one. But it doesn't need to be there at all. That's purely
what you're saying. What you're saying, because I'm not sure if you don't write anything, it will not work, right? You need a new custom function that will be without the...
Exactly. You would need to create your custom function without that UID part because otherwise it would return no result. On a normal FlutterFlow query, you have this option to ignore blank values, but because we're doing it as a custom action, we don't have that option.
I got it.
So let's say, for instance, I also want to create this type, which was the other thing that was important. I would obviously in reality go through and set other things, like I would set the initial balance, I would set all these other things, but for the sake of expedience, I'm not going to do that. And primary. Oops.
Okay, and that's great. Actually, yeah, that's great user flow. And I was thinking probably next time we can show how we can do this with an update, because I myself I'm using actually the backend. I'm using PHP and MySQL to use to do all those stuffs, and I have like a made up PHP function to actually do this, to actually create it if it's not created, or just create it or update it, the record. So probably this is great because if you don't have a record, it will be created. But if you are sending some data as well, if you want to send some data to another screen of your app and you don't have this record, probably it's a great custom function to have just check if you have this record, just update it. But if you don't have it, just create it, right?
Yeah, that'd be really cool. Yeah, exactly. To update it with the latest information, or to refresh, or do an API call or something like that. Yeah.
So it should not be very different than the one that you just mentioned it. So yeah, if someone can create it, or maybe we can, or I can just try and create for the next stream or something like that.
Yeah, no, exactly. There are lots of use cases for that basic, but the idea is to create documents when they're needed. And this gives you a lot of prevents breaking of your app in future, whereby you've added a new function and you've obviously got users already and they don't have those documents. So having that type of check on each page is really helpful to make sure that your app doesn't ever break in future. So yeah, that's my kind of custom function of the week. How about you?
That's great. That's great. I just have one more question, because I was wondering the references, the imports. You said you don't need any import, which was
no, you don't.
Okay, which was yeah, a little bit strange for me, because usually you need imports, but if you're saying if it's working and you check it's working, that's great.
Yeah,
You
for
don't need any
everything to do
imports.
with Firebase, you don't actually need to import anymore. So you
Okay,
can
I
access
didn't
all
know
of the
that.
basic Firebase stuff without needing to do any imports, which is really nice.
Okay, did they change that? Because last time I
I'm not
checked, you
sure.
needed an import.
Maybe.
Okay, that's
I
great.
can't. I've
That's
only
great to
figured out
know.
how to do it very recently, so
Okay,
I
that's
can't
great. And
speak.
one, can you open just the custom function, just to,
Yeah.
because I'm a coder and I just need to do those stuffs. But if you just open it when there is the code and just click the button on the right, yeah, just to
Oh, you
format
mean
the
actually
code.
open the page, or
Yeah, just this looks very pretty nice than the last time you show it, because
oh?
because the return true and return false are not on the same line, and yeah, it just
Oh, okay,
looks
okay,
better. But yeah,
okay. Well, there you go. There's the pretty version of it.
yeah, exactly.
Cool. Would you like to share what's your custom function
Sure,
for the week?
sure. My function is not very advanced like yours, to be honest.
I wouldn't say mine is advanced.
Yours it's pretty advanced than mine. Mine is actually very basic one. It's about comparing values to values, because actually I was using um the functions that are built in FlutterFlow, which are actually, for example, when you compare to functions, you can do it like this from here
For visibility and stuff, yeah?
for visibility, for example. Yes, but I saw that this was not working for me. I didn't had I cannot show you an example right now, because I just cannot take it on top of my
Mm,
head. But I saw that if I want to compare some stuff from my backend from coming from Apico, I was not able to do this. I don't
mhm.
know if they fixed that or something
I
like
mean,
that. But
another advantage of doing it as a custom function is that you can obviously nest custom functions. So, in a way that you
yes,
couldn't, I don't think, with that compare.
yes, exactly. And yeah, as this so in this very basic constant function, you have two arguments, which is the value 1 and the value 2, which we will compare, and we will have the data type. In my case, it's string, but it will be any data type you want to. And as you said, as you mentioned it before, that you can actually create a new argument, and you can actually just be a string and then type
Let's try
the
that.
data type
Let's
you
try that.
want to. Yeah, I'm not sure if you actually type, if, for example, because if you want to cast from, for example, if you have a string and you have a dart, because I have to check how you cast it, because I don't remember, of course. But if you have a dart to cast it from string to, for example, integer, uh, and the code to cast it is int.parse, for example.
Yeah, I have a
Uh,
function to do that as well. Yeah.
yeah, but the thing is that I'm not sure, because if it's coming from as a string, I'm not sure if you take this as a string. But
Okay, okay.
we can try that. So if you have a, but let me just show you the basic one, for example, for just super
Yeah, show the
quickly.
basic, and
And
then we can
then,
try
yeah,
it.
just
Yeah.
returning a boolean, and then this is this very simple code. You can, as I said, you can use AI generated code to actually generate this code as well, because it's super easy, super simple. Just comparing value 1, is it the same as value 2, and if it's the same, it's just comparing, and that's returning true and false. And I have those test units, which I always use actually to just check if the function is working the way I intend it to work. And this should return true because they are identical, and this should return false because they are not identical. But for example, if you want to try and cast with another, so we can try it. So we can try this. We have to generate the code. I didn't done this in a long time, so I cannot. So I have to write this here, and if I want to, for example, if I have a string and I want to cast it to integer, this should be int, and this should be a string. And then I should go to code, and I should click, yeah, it's actually auto, so this part from here, it's auto-generated by FlutterFlow. You don't need to write anything else. The only part you need to write is actually those parts over here after that. So if I have a third value and I want to cast it, I can just, in theory, I should be able to, because this is an int, I should be able to do it like int and then parse, and then what I want to parse. So it should be like that, and then the value that I want to parse. For example, I want to parse the second value. I want to parse it to int, and this should be like int or something like that. And this, in theory, should work. But the problem here is that this is actually coming as a string and not coming as a data type. So this should be a data type in order to have methods or functions. So in order to actually use the dot here. So because this is actually an active, so to say, IDE or whatever you call it, if I start to type parse, I should be able, in theory, I should be able to see it on the dropdown, because it should be just it should be telling me, okay, you can use this in theory. But because this is coming as a string, this is actually not working in this case, right? In two. And yeah, because this is actually int. If I remove the int, it should work. So if I remove the int, you see right now I don't have any errors because it's working.
Yeah.
Because this int is actually coming. This is a built-in
function.
Functionality inside Dart. So that's why it's coming this int from here. But in order to use, probably you can do it, but I have to think about it right now.
Maybe for next week.
Yeah, but yeah, in theory you probably can do it, but actually not in this case. But probably there should be some other way to cast values other than just this one that I know. But yeah, this is the custom function, and as I said, I use this. I don't use the built-in because I don't have any problems with this one, so I recommend people using it as well.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Cool. I have a bonus thing, which is let's try and do which is the JSON thing that I came up with, which I sent you, I think, the other day. Let me share my screen.
Yeah.
Because I think I got it working in the end. So
nice.
Little bit of a tangent, but let's see if we can actually get this working, because this is quite interesting, I think, for people, and maybe a little bit of an intro into. So where do I click? Build? How do I find just pages?
Pages. It should be on the second one, isn't it? On the left. The one that is under the one that you clicked right now.
That's like here?
Yeah. They move it, right? Because it's not there. Isn't it? Just click on it there.
My computer's so slow to... Yeah, okay, so I have to search for pages here as well. Okay.
Yeah, they move it. It was not there.
So the use case here, what I was trying to do was to... let me pull up again. I've just got my little custom tab thing here. But let me go through page view. So all I wanted to do here is I have a list of hubs.
Yeah.
They're essentially organizations that you can view. And I wanted to create a filter. You may notice this looks remarkably similar to a filter in the filter, it's stolen from one of the default FlutterFlow templates, was the starting point for this. But essentially what I wanted to do was to generate this, a list of filters, and then to use these for filters. So you could click them on, click them off, kind of like choice chips, but obviously with a little bit more customization. So what I wanted to do was to generate a list based on values of images and then text using actually Firestore documents. But what I was trying to do was to generate children here from list. And I wanted to do it with a custom function that would generate out a pair, because to generate, for full completeness, if I wanted to generate a list of 6 things here, I can use a custom function that generates 6 items. And in that way I generate a fixed value. However, what I wanted to do was to generate, let's see, where can I filter list? I believe it was here, image from list. So what I was trying to do here is generate from this custom function. If we go look at this custom function, and using something new for me, which was JSON results. So essentially, because I wanted these 6 items to have both a string value and an image path. And so the code that I set up to do this was, I think it worked in the end. So essentially, list image. This is very messy. For int, I gotta see what my own code does.
I can go through it if you.
If you want to.
So
go through my code because I don't remember what I did.
So you have like 2 parameters, which are list of strings. Right. The first thing, and then you have an array, which is the line 8. You have an array, and then on line 9 you have another array, which is actually a predefined array. And you have in this array you have a filter. This is the key. It's called the key. So your key, it's a filter, and your value, it's index. And you have a key image and the value of image 1. And
I think this was me testing it.
probably because I don't think you need it. But it's good actually visualization of what you need or what you expect in the end. So
exactly.
So when you go down, so you have a loop here, and you're looping actually through the index. Where is it? Can you go up so we can see the index? Where is the index coming from? Okay, so the index is the first parameter that you are putting inside your function. So when you go down, so you're looping basically on the array that you're putting on as a first parameter. And then you have an if, and the first if it's not no. So basically, if this is not a no, the value that you're getting from the array, from the first parameter of your custom function is not no. So you add it to the array. So if you go up to just see where is the array. So array is the first one, and probably you don't need the second one.
But I think this was just to test it.
But as I said, it's a good visualization, so you can see what your.
This is the result that I want, basically.
Exactly.
A result. So, I want a list that has essentially index, and then image, different images, different string values, basically.
Exactly. So if it's no, you're just adding the no value. Actually, to be honest, I think you can just skip that. So you can just comment the 25th line, the 25th line when you're adding it, because if it's no, I don't think you need it, because in some user cases you need it, but I think if you're getting an empty value from an array, I don't think the FlutterFlow will show it, or it will just blow up and show you the gray screen, right? Right, because if you are expecting a value with for example, you put it like a filter or an image, doesn't matter, and if you don't have this image, it will blow up, right? Yeah. So in this case, you can actually change your code, and the line on 45 you can just make it so it's not equal, but it's not equal, which is you have to put the exclamation mark, yeah, and then the yeah, exactly, and then you can just delete the line from 25 and 26, or command them or delete them, it doesn't matter. Yeah, and you just have one if, because before that you have
Yep.
if or else, but right now you have only one if, and this one if is just checking if the value is not empty or it's not null.
Hmm.
You can just add the value, and you're getting the value from the index, which is the first parameter that you're
Hmm.
getting, and then the image list. Can you get the image list? Is the
It's, I think, a
second one.
list of,
It's
yeah,
the second one,
exactly.
right? So basically, you have two arrays. One is the filter, and one is the image, right?
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
you
exactly.
combine them together, right? Is
Yep.
that, yeah? So this is
That was the
your,
goal.
yeah, this is your code.
I don't know if that
But
was helpful for anybody, but it took me a while to figure out, and I was kind of proud of it. So,
it is helpful actually. But do you cast this code to JSON? Because I don't see the JSON casting. Because right now, can you
that's the
go?
part I didn't. Whoops. So this, then I used to build the list.
Yes.
So I put in the list of image paths, then map list items. I think I was just mapping item in list.
Okay. Yeah, you can do this. You can do this. But also, I think you can
How would
cast.
you do it as casting as JSON? That was the
Yeah,
part I
because
couldn't figure out.
you can write dart cast array
How do I do that?
to
I do.
map, or array to JSON, probably is because you are
So where do
expecting
I
a
do it?
JSON.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh,
Say I wanted to return a JSON. How would I do that?
yeah, just on this line 32,
Yeah,
33 that you are right now.
yeah.
Just let me check, because I don't know all the codes in the world. But yeah, basically you need to put map, and then inside this map you need a string, and then you have another string, right? You have
So I
two
do
strings.
map dot or
But let me check how do you cast it, because if your class, okay, so this is the code. Okay, so probably you need, no, because this is not the right code I'm looking. Okay, so you can probably go with um, yeah, you can probably go JSON. That if you write in Google, can you write in Google so I don't
yeah.
share my screen, because you already share your screen? Dart convert array to JSON. Yes, and then just on the Stack Overflow, probably it will be a good, yeah, this one. Yes, exactly. And you probably need the code that is under the first or the second answer, I think.
Uh,
It's, yeah. So it's
the
yeah.
thing that I
So
couldn't do is this. I don't think this is imported by default into the custom functions.
it's not important, but you can just put it on the. Oh, and you can, no, you cannot import. You're right. You cannot
Exactly.
import in custom functions. You can only import in custom actions. And
Yeah,
okay,
that
you're
was the
right.
issue I had.
You're right. You're right. If you cannot import this, probably you cannot convert it. You're right.
Okay.
Yes,
Well,
because you need the import.
yeah, exactly. That was the barrier I hit. But I came up with some solution. It worked in the end. But
Yeah.
anyway, shall we, for the second half of the session, we got about 20 minutes. Shall we try to do the custom auth page? So I'm going to switch projects here.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you think it would
we're,
be fast to just show the widget that we did the last time we had the
if
session
you want to,
together?
yeah, we can do that really quickly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Just to show it.
So for those of you on the first session who watched the first session, we were building a custom web view, which we did get working in the end. We did not in the first session, but we did get it working. What was interesting, and the reason we wanted to talk about it, so what we were doing here, just to recap, is there was the normal FlutterFlow WebView widget, and we essentially just went and grabbed the code for that and recreated it as a custom widget that allowed us to put in a string value that worked essentially exactly the same way. What's interesting though is that when I actually went to use it, it worked a little bit differently. In fact, it did something that the standard FlutterFlow WebView did not do. If I go into my page for inbox, and we can't explain why, but essentially what I've used it for in this expandable, this is an email inbox that we have in our app. And what I've used it for is to display right here the actual body of the email, which is displayed as a JSON. And so we're using, when I tried this with the standard FlutterFlow WebView, it simply didn't work. It did not display. But when we're using the custom WebView, even though it should be exactly the same, for some reason, it works. And I can't explain why. But it does. So that's just to finish up. That is a full and complete custom widget, although it's giving some error there. But when I've done it, it does actually work. So you must enter the API calls.
But do you have like a run version, or do you think you can?
I have a run version, but I don't have any emails in there right now, unfortunately.
Okay, yes, okay.
I didn't come prepared. Sorry for that. But
okay. No, it's okay.
At least it's not breaking the page.
Yeah, but this is actually another use case that we can talk about it about the functions that actually when you use a normal function, and sometimes that doesn't work, you can always try. I suggest you can always try with the custom functions, because as you can see from this example, it's with the built-in function it doesn't work, but with the custom function it works. It actually the exact same function. It just works.
I mean, and exactly, this is displaying exactly the same thing as you would with the FlutterFlow WebView, but for some reason it works, and the other one didn't. So
and probably in the next sessions we'll add the JavaScript functionality.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. Yeah, which would be to add so you can actually have talk back to your WebView. So let's go into we'll go into my test project, and what we're going to try and do, we're going to try to build. There is for those of you who have not seen, on July 7th, there was a pretty big update to FlutterFlow, which we're going to quickly go through. Wow, my computer is slow today. It's okay, I've got it here. So in the FlutterFlow help documents, there is a article on how to build custom routing. This is one of the most requested things that we see in the community, which is how do I have it be so that the first time a user logs in, that they're forced to go through some sign up process, even if they quit out of the app before and again, a lot of that goes back to not breaking your app, making sure that the users inputted their display name and everything like that. And the other thing is, can I have different user groups? So if I can have an admin, send them to a different part, or for instance, if I have paid users and non-paid users, can I route them to different parts of the app when they log in?
Yes, and just to mention it, yes. Previously, actually, you have to do it with a custom function or some logic that is just around.
It was a lot of around.
Actually, I did. I think 2 videos about that.
There were a lot of different hacks that came up with, but now, luckily, there is a nice little thing. So we're just going to go and try and build this.
And actually, they changed the home, the help page, right? Because previously it was not working. It's not looking like that, right? They have a new.
Yeah, I think this is a different. These are just. I think it's an extension. So, oh wow, there's a lot of stuff on here. How to make a custom navbar.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah. We should mention that I think almost every time when we are live, so people can. People should actually watch this and write and sorry and read the help, because before asking questions, because
Yeah, I mean, this has only been up there a week apparently, but it seems like
yeah,
there's some really cool stuff here.
yeah,
Especially this one, custom navbar. We might do
yeah,
that next week.
yeah, sure.
Based on how to filter drop. Oh, that's cool too, how to filter drop down. So a lot of this stuff is just, again, it's things that maybe could be done before, but they've made nice little, whoever David is, has made nice little guides that are very clear. So essentially the base of this, just to walk through here, well, they've actually clonable project we can use. The logic of this is that when your app has by default in your app settings, you have what's your initial page and your logged in page. So essentially, this is the page that you set where normally you would have a sign up and a login. So if a user is not logged in, if they do not have, which means essentially in the cache of the app, there it's a fresh install, there is no Firebase authentication token, et cetera, that's the page that they would go to. Then they allow you to set a second page, which is your logged in page. So this one is so that your user doesn't go to the login page every time, and that persists across. So even if a user quits the app, they will go, as long as they've registered, they will essentially go directly to there. Where this creates a problem is for users in the middle part. So essentially, if your user registers with the app, you want them to go through onboarding, which is fine if they're a well-behaving user and they do, you can direct them immediately from sign up to that onboarding page. The problem is if they quit the app and then start again, they will actually go to here. They will not go to your onboarding page. This is a problem. And this is what the page routing helps to solve. So we can actually look at the FlutterFlow project that's set up nicely and kind of walk through it using the new. So here they have a sign up page, a login page. And if we go and look in the setup, they have the login page is set up to be the entry page, meaning that all users, the first time they download your app, will go there. And then they have what they call a mission control page, which is this checkup page. And what this checkup page is doing is essentially going to be, they've got a nice little graphic here. Essentially, this is checking your user record to see where they are in the process. So where it should then send them.
Yeah, so probably they're using the same action on load, right? So if you click actions on this screen that you were, if you click, actions, and probably they're using actions here. So you can, so when a user log in or register, they're sending, all the users are sending them to this screen. And
exactly.
when they're
So
sending to this
every single
screen,
time they will come here. Yeah.
Exactly. So all the logic should be inside this screen. And that's why this screen is only with the background and says loading, because the idea of this screen is only to check where do you need to go after that.
Exactly. So what this is doing is we can walk through. So essentially, is user logged in? This is a global property that's now been added to Firebase, to FlutterFlow, which is really nice. So it previously did not exist. If they are not logged in, it's going to take them to the login screen. If they are logged in, it's going to do some checks. So the first thing it's going to do is check for a local state variable, which you create, called first time. And so the way you would do that is simply as it specifies in the tutorial. You specify this in your local state. As you see, they've created a Boolean. The key thing here is when you create this, to make sure that you set this to persisted. What this means is that it will persist across restarts of the app. So if the user quits, So once this is true, it will always be true, essentially. And they've set it obviously as a Boolean, not as a string value.
Yes, because
so
when you close, because when you close the app, and if it is not persistent, next time you log in, not log in, but next time you open the app, it will be true. For example.
Exactly. It will go back to the default value.
Yes,
so
exactly.
You're checking that. So you're checking, is the user logged in? Yes or no? And then you're checking this persisted state value. So this, by default, the very first time a user installs the app and registers will be false. Once it's set to true, it's then going to mean that, sorry, by default, I guess it's true, yeah?
The default is true, yes. The default is true.
Sorry, by default, it's true. So the first time a user installs, it'll be true. And what that means is it's then going to send them to this onboarding page. If it's false, that means that they have completed their onboarding. So essentially what they've done here is on the onboarding page, which has got, I guess, some page view. And my guess is this very last button has an action on it that changes that local state for just this user and sets the first time variable to false. So as soon as the user presses that button, they won't go to this page. It
I
then
have a
goes
question,
to
actually.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you. But last time, that was a long time ago, but last time when I used update local state, and when I used after that another action, it was actually not working. And it was actually, yes, but yeah, I think they fixed it now, so now it's working.
Yeah.
Okay.
And where this sends them, though, is it sends them back to the checkup page. And the reason it does that is to create a loop. So it means that those on-page load actions on the checkup page, which is your mission control page, all of these actions are now going to run from the start again. So is user logged in? Yes. Is it first time? Well, no. Now the answer is different. It's going to be false. So it's going to go down this pathway. They've then set another one, which is another condition, which is admin. Now, this one is not a local state variable. This is actually a field in the authenticated user. So this is going to be set up in your user collection. You have this field is admin. So you would assign a user is admin true if you want them to be true. And then on the checkup page, if we go back here and look at these
probably
actions.
most of the time, probably you will need to do this manually, to be honest. I mean, if it's not a huge project, it's manually just pick some people and just make them admins and just make them
for
run.
Admin, yeah, but I would say probably not for paid, unpaid users.
Yeah.
So for example, you could have, if a user has paid to get access to certain content, you could have the return of that Stripe action, that payment action, make it change their status, and that be the only way to change that status.
True.
So
no, that's true, because I was just saying that because some of the people were asking in the forum, how do you do this? But the thing is that you can actually go inside FlutterFlow, FlutterBase. You can actually go inside FlutterBase and just change those values manually. So you can do this also if you want to. If it's just, for example, 5 people or 10 people,
exactly, you can just go to manage content in the CMS, essentially here, and you'll be able to manually change them.
Yes,
exactly. To be admin, not admin.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not going to work because I'm not actually registered as part of this project. But so going back to our mission control page, and so then based on the basis of that, you could direct them to a different part of your page. The other interesting thing is that, does this page use a navbar? This is interesting. No. So one of the limitations to note when you're doing this is, and maybe that's a good thing they've created this other thing about creating a custom navbar, is that by default, if you use the navbar, the built-in one, it requires you to have both of these pages on the navbar, which obviously you don't want to have this page as your navbar because it's just a loading screen. So then you would have to create a custom navbar, which again is one of the nice little new help articles about creating a custom navbar. And maybe
but you're saying it's only required on the second page, right? On the logged in page, right?
But that's your checkup. That's your checkup page.
But
you're right. You're right. It's only the logged in page. You're right.
Yes, but and right now you cannot just hide it, right? There is no way to hide it or something like that. Yeah, which is actually, it will be a great functionality actually if they add it in the future, because
look at this.
Yeah, they just added this like in the
Wow.
today
I haven't
maybe
tried
or
this.
yesterday. Yeah.
I haven't tried
Yeah.
this. That's pretty cool. I'm going to try it today.
Yeah, today.
Other things that are new in our last little 8 minutes here. I don't think there's any
No,
comments
but
because
I
I'm
just
pretty
saw
sure.
just to
Yeah.
say, yeah, I'm looking at the comments there. No one is commenting right
Yeah,
now.
there's
But
no one here. It's just us.
yeah, but actually, to be honest, this is not a new functionality, right? The thing that we talked about it right now, it's not actually a new functionality because
The
you
thing
can do
that's new
this.
is the is logged in.
Okay, yeah, you're right. You're right.
That part is
But
new.
you're right. But if you have a custom function like the one that I showed,
Yeah.
shown, and probably you can use. What is the difference? The using the is login and then just use the just picking the authentication user, and then for example pick the UID or whatever, or the email or whatever, and just
Hmm.
check if that is not empty. Isn't that the same thing, right? It should return the same thing.
Essentially, I think it just makes it a little bit smoother, yeah. But I mean,
Yeah.
I think we all like. I have a crazy check that goes through, which basically just a user. I create some document in some collection, and I check whether it exists or not.
Yeah.
Very similar, but I think this just makes it easier, basically.
Yeah, exactly. That makes it easier, but but it was not a new functionality. Yeah, just
Yeah,
they
it's
they
just
show they showcase it how you can do it.
cool. I think that's about it for today. What's the other stuff that's new? Oh, you can set widths on form fields, which is really nice. Oh, you can replace widgets. Very nice.
Yeah, you can replace it. That's actually a very
That's
good
really
thing
nice. That's
because
really handy.
yes, because the only annoying thing right now with the FlutterFlow is that it's actually every time you change something with the
It
inside the
scrolls to the
widget,
top.
it scrolls to the top, which is super annoying if you have like 1,000 widgets. It's not. Yeah.
This is cool too, haptic feedback. I haven't tried that yet.
Yeah, I haven't tried that as well, but that looks cool.
And my design guy is very excited about this.
Yeah,
That you can set responsive fonts for web. All right, I think we'll end 5 minutes early then.
sure.
Since no one's here and there's no questions. But thank you, Dimitar.
Thank you.
Very
Thank you
nice
as well.
talking to you.
Yeah.
And